All right, so let's start taking these questions one by one. Oh, thank you.
Apologies.
Hopefully you guys wrote legibly. So, first question is, perks of cash versus insurance versus monthly membership. Favorite EHR system, and how do you pay yourself to get maximum profits? Good, excellent questions. So, I was an insurance-based practice for the first 20 years or so. All of it when I was in New Jersey, and then until about 2015 here, and then in 2015, Blue Cross did not pay me for an entire year's worth of care for all the patients we had that were on Blue Cross. It was everything was experimental, investigational, and this rejection and that rejection. And at the end of the year, my wife and because we were going in like off hours and on weekends trying to figure things out. And I was spending all day like Tuesdays when I wasn't teaching, I was there. And we had other staff people doing this, and I said, I don't want to do this anymore. And she said, fine, like that's my beautiful wife, whatever you want, it's good, get out of it. So we switched to all cash, with the exception of a PI case, like if a patient comes in who was in a car accident, I'm not going to turn them away. So we would, if an existing patient has a personal injury, I will, because our car accident, we'll use their car accident insurance. Now we do a membership-based thing, which I think is amazing, because the old model of pay per visit, that's great for a dentist. When you go in, you get a filling, and then I don't see you again. But what does a dentist do who puts braces on teeth? It's a whole care plan. It's a 2-year care plan. It costs $3,000 or whatever it is. Well, that's what you got to think of. You got to think. Thank you so much. You got to think of long-term care plans. So if you have this short-term care plan, if you have a short-term model, if the person doesn't have money that week because they just blew a gasket on their car, then they're not coming, right? So you got to think of a way and at least in our practice is we want to see people for as long as we can. Not for, just especially for these kiddos on the spectrum and stuff, it takes a long time for things to really change. So I find the membership-based program is the best. My favorite EHR system is called ChiroWrite, CHIRO-WRITE, ChiroWrite. I really like it. It's really a cash-based system. If you're going to take insurance, it probably isn't the best for you. A lot of my friends in ICPA are using Jane, which is like a monthly membership kind of EHR online thing that they love. So if I was to look into something new, because I've had ChiroWrite for 20 years, that's who I'd look into. And how do you pay yourself? I always pay myself first. And you've got to become either like an LLC or a corporation. You must, if you have your own business. Like if you don't really need to do this. But if you have your own business, you must become a corporation or LLC, and then you pay yourself, right? So every Wednesday, Rubin Family Chiropractic pays Drew Rubin a salary. But every week, I also pay a minimum of 10, if not more than 20, sometimes up to 20% of my salary goes into my 401k, because I have my own 401k. So, and any employee who's been there for a while in my office also benefits from that 401k. So I contribute to their 401k as well. So we've amassed millions of dollars by dumping money into this stuff over the years, so that I am the first person that's paid, and I also take that money and I put it into the retirement account. So it's an easy thing to do, and you can get a Vanguard, retirement account or some other sort of easy, simple retirement account, and I think it's hugely important. Good question. All right. Next question. What changes or adaptations have you done to your office to create a better environment for kids with autism? We have a quiet room in our back office that is like a completely sensory deprived room. So I have an air filter that has a white noise kind of sound to it, and there's no music in that room, and we have no scents in that room whatsoever in the whole office. I asked all my interns not to wear any perfumes or colognes. We don't have any. We used to have all these cool like Young Life essential oil thingies, it plugged into the wall and stuff. Pulled all those out because kids are too sensitive with that kind of stuff. So we make a very sensory deprived room on purpose. That have a lot of toys that they like, a lot of sensory seeking toys, like pop-it things and fidget things, so that kids can be distracted with something other than a phone, if at all possible. All right, next question. Tips for having an efficient pediatric practice without sacrificing quality. That's a really good question. So, to me, and there'll be varied opinions in this, I think the most important way to have an efficient pediatric practice is you need to have an open adjusting area. Because open adjusting, everybody sees everything. And everybody overhears everything. And when people walk into my office, you walked in at 5 o'clock yesterday, you would see like 4 or 5 different families, and kids are all over the place, and all kinds of pandemonium happening. And that's a beautiful thing. And people see that, and if they don't bring in their own kids, they're like, oh, I guess I can bring my kids here. And so it makes it a very loving atmosphere. So with the exception of the more challenged child on the spectrum who goes in the back, we have this open adjusting area, and I think that makes a very efficient thing, because in my old office in New Jersey, it was all rooms, and to get people in and out of a room takes forever. Because you have to back yourself out and excuse yourself, and that was very hard. So it was much easier to have an open adjusting area. So we have 4 adjusting benches, and then we have 3 different private rooms for these kiddos. What was the hardest thing you found about starting your own practice? As I mentioned this before, the hardest thing about starting my own practice was right here, between my 2 ears. That was the challenge. The actual doing this stuff wasn't that hard. Being a business person isn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. It's a lot of work, but it's not as hard as I thought. But believing that I could do it, that was the hardest thing. So Think and Grow Rich. You got to read one book. Think and Grow Rich. That's the book to read, because that book helped change my mind. And I listened to great motivational speakers like Zig Ziglar, who's one of my favorites. And it's all on Spotify. You want to listen. If you got Spotify Premium, listen to Ziglar. He's got a great. They just released something. They found some new stuff. So look up Zig Ziglar on Spotify. He's got a bunch of things on the premium there, and I'm sure Think and Grow Rich, somebody read it, and it's probably on there too. Excuse me. How do you charge families with multiple kids an honest and fair price? So I have a monthly payment plan. So we start with a certain amount, and then we add an amount for every other additional person in the family. So it makes it very, very easy to do this. So instead of paying, like this was here, $85 office visit, you're not paying 85 plus 85 plus 85 plus 85. I have a family with 7 kids. How would you do that? It would be like $1,400 a visit, right, for every kid to get all the things. No. So we make a affordable monthly plan for these families, and that's what makes it work so well in my office. How do you go about something specific care plans, or creating specific care plans for patients? How do you determine what the best technique is for your patient? How do you make a decision on where you should peak or associate? Very different questions. All right, so I said one question. So the care plans are based on 2 things. A, how messed up is that person? So if they're have more situation going on, whether it's severe back pain, if it's a back pain person, or the minimally speaking on the spectrum, I try to see people more frequently. And I will spread out my care plans. So most of my care plans for a kiddo on the spectrum, minimum 6 months. This is a minimum 6-month care plan. Even for an adult with pain, it's 4-month care plan. So I do not have any short-term, like 1 month, couple of week, few visit kind of care plan. Minimum 4 to 6 month care plan in my office. How do I decide how do I adjust? Where's that person's nerve system? You are, minimally speaking, all primitive reflexes positive, eyes are a mess, all these other, heart rate variability is off, then I'm doing tonal work in the beginning. you're more, kind of in the middle. I'm doing a combination of tonal and some sort of osseous. You're doing great, then we'll do all osseous. So everything's based upon where their nerve system is. You've got a mess of a nerve system. The more messed their nerve system is, the more I'm starting at a tonal level and working my way up. How do you know where to peak or associate? Go where your heart sings. If it makes you feel good, then this is a good place. Don't just go, especially when you're going to associate, don't associate for the money. Please don't associate for the money. Because you're not going to make any money really as an associate. That's not the whole point. I mean, you'll make enough money to survive and to do nice things, but if you're looking to make a killing as an associate, that's a rare associate kind of a thing. You're getting an associate, you're becoming an associate to give you a gap between your graduation and when you feel like you're ready, to actually start practice. So find a place that makes sense to you. I have, just as an example, I've had several interns who, once they've graduated, they've taken these associate positions in practices that they really didn't want to, that were non-pediatric, didn't want to go there, but now they're stuck because they're making an income and they can't get out, right? And now they feel bad because they're like, I want this kind of practice, I'm in this kind of practice, my lifestyle now is here, right? And how do you change that? So don't do that to yourselves. You didn't work this hard for this long, spend this much money, this much time for you to not get what you want. So get what you want. Make the life of your dreams. This is your life. This is your life. How many CAs do I have? I have one CA who works 4 out of the 6 shifts. I have 3 other high schoolers who take all the other shifts. So they kind of all switch off. So I kind of rotate people around. And then I have one person who's sort of like my office manager. How long before we are opening our office should we get people signed up for care? That's a great question. So here's how, so if you're taking notes, this is the biggest note taker thing you should take. All right, so this is how I built my practice. My first one in New Jersey in 1990 and my second one here in 2001 is I did a survey. I literally walked around, now I use an iPad, but if I walked around with a clipboard, I didn't knock on people's doors, I went to businesses. And I went to businesses, I said, hey, I'm Dr. Rubin, I'm the new chiropractor in the area, I'm opening up down the road over here. What do you think about this area? And obviously I didn't go in there and have 1 million people online or whatever, I did it when it was kind of dead. I purposely watched businesses and see what's their best times for me. And then they'd say, oh, I love this area, this is great, it's got this church, and I got involved in this organization, this school over here, and I'd write everything down, even if you don't care, just write it all down. And then the conversation will go for about maybe a minute or two, and then you say, thank you so much, for having me here. Can I invite you to my open house? Yeah, sure. All right. And either A, get a business card, or B, have them write down their name and number, on your iPad or whatever for you. And now you have an open house list. And I did this for about a month and a half. And but what's going to happen? 1 out of every 10 of these knocks on businesses' doors, this is what's going to happen. Did you say you're a chiropractor? Yeah. I have back pain. I have neck pain. My wife has back pain or neck pain. You said you mentioned pediatrics something earlier in our talk? Yeah. My kid is on the spectrum, right? And anybody who says that, you've prepared in advance. So you found out that in that particular location, wherever you're at, you found out that there's a family in super amounts of need, right? So like there's a girl in our area, I just saw there's a big billboard and they're doing like a GoFundMe because of cancer for her. So let's just say she's Jane. So what we're doing is, as a way of saying thanks for you guys to spend your time with us a couple minutes here and give me this information, we're offering the complete exam of my office, which is normally $200. We're offering for $50, and $25 is going to the Jane Fund. You're going to help Jane? You know Jane? I've seen that she's having this cancer treatment. I want to help. Can my wife come too? Yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, you and your wife can both come at the same time. Absolutely. And you sign up there. You have your iPad with your calendar, and you sign up. So like your office is opening on October 1st, and now you're signing up all those people. So the first week, I had 30 new patients in my first week. The way I did that is because you have to speak to 300 to 500 businesses to get those kind of numbers. But then you got 30 new patients in your first week, and then they all accept care, and then each of those new patients has a husband or a wife or a friend or whatever, and then they all have kids and stuff. So boom, you've just built your practice. Now you're never going to stop, but you've just built the beginning of your practice. There's no waiting time. There's no sitting around and like, why aren't people coming in? It's because you made it happen. So that is my favorite way to do this is to. So it takes about a month and a half to do this. So prepare yourself for about 4 to 6 weeks to speak to 300 to 500 people. How do you get the new mom to bring in their baby after they give birth? Do you have any patient packages or promos to encourage them to bring in their new baby? Yeah, so I mean, our fee system is so good that it almost always works. But the way you encourage them is you say, like, birth is hard for you and the baby. So we need to check your baby, especially if they came in with a breech baby or whatever. Like, your baby's stuck like this, for the last month or so. We have to make sure that their little nerve system is working strong. So that's the best way to talk about that. What other professionals do you recommend or have on your team to allow things to run smoothly and efficiently? Lawyers, tax attorney. Yeah. So you need an accountant. You got to have an accountant. Don't do it yourself. Don't do TaxSlayer. TaxSlayer is done. Once you're in practice, TaxSlayer is done. As an associate, probably still can do it. But if you own your own business, you forget about all those things. You got to have an accountant. Number one, you do need an attorney in the beginning, only to get your LLC and your corporation going. Don't do it yourself. Don't do it as online, lawyer.com or whatever things are out there. Have someone professionally do it that knows your state, right? Because every state's got its own little nuances and stuff. You don't want to be messed up, later on. I have a financial advisor also. I think that's super important. You got to have, whether it's a person or a company. We use Vanguard. We've been using them for years. I really like their products and stuff. And obviously you need CAs to be good. But this is another important thing. A lot of people say, I want to open up and save money, so I don't want to have a CA when you first start. Wrong. Never, ever, 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 I'm going to say it one more time, ever be alone in your office with a patient. Never. I don't care whether you're a male or female. I'm not talking about that. Never. Because if it's your word versus theirs, who's going to win? Them 100% of the time. That's another beautiful thing about open adjusting. Because my CA is right there watching the whole thing. And I got a dozen other people, besides interns, and other patients, everybody's watching the whole thing. So you got it never. And I've interns saying, what do you think about me doing mobile? I'm like, if you do mobile, you've got to bring someone with you. If you're going to do mobile thing, I'm going to do mobile chiropractic. That's great. I think it's an interesting concept. I don't think I could do it, but interesting concept. But if you're going to do that, you got to bring. Who am I going to bring? I don't know. Bring your mom, your grandma, your best friend. Something. You got to bring someone to be there to corroborate what you did, because this is a litigious world. So you got to CYA. So don't play a game with that kind of stuff. That ain't worth it. Your license just cost you $300,000. Don't gamble with $300,000. Best way to grow pediatrics in an established practice. How do you manage negative reports of progress or no's and ROFs? How do you prepare to serve in the morning? Okay, wow. There's a lot of questions here. So, in the morning, I get to the office at 7 in the morning and I meditate and get myself completely centered before anybody shows up. So my interns and staff show up at 8. I'm in the office by around 7:15, and I'm meditating to prepare myself, to get myself ready for the day. That's how I prepare. People, not everybody's going to love you, but the best thing to prepare for a negative report is your exam. Your exam does the talking, because your exam are numbers. So I can say your HRV went from this to this. Your prima reflexes went from this to this. Your posture went from this to this. Your balance went from this to this. Everything is a number. Everything can be numerical. And so people, we had it the other day, Mom said, oh, I'm not seeing a lot of progress in my kiddo on the spectrum. And then we do the exam, and everything is better. And now she's like, wow, she's doing a lot better than I thought. Yeah. So let your numbers do the talking. But you're not going to convince everybody. Not everybody's going to stay, and that's totally okay.
What if the numbers aren't good?
I don't see that. I literally don't see that. And I'm being totally honest with you. I literally do not see the numbers. The numbers are always improving to some degree or another, right? And some may go up and some might go down and stuff. But on the average, everything is on this. Like, I'm not expecting every time everything to go 100% up, but almost everything is going up to some degree, and that's what we want to see. So yeah, I really don't see that a lot. Good question though. All right, yeah. If you need to leave, go right ahead. I'm just going to finish up. There's just a few more. What is your surefire method, approach, phrase that is the most successful in getting a patient parent to commit to or sign on a care plan or pay for a care plan in full upfront? Your closing tactic. Okay, so my closing tactic is that when I do my report of findings, I start with, this is what's going on with you or your kiddo. This is the what we're going to do to fix it, including all the exercises and all the other things we're going to do. This is how long it's going to take and what are all the obstacles that might occur. And then I talk about the finances, and almost 100% of the time, by the time I get to the finances, they're already in, right? And I'm going to teach you a very important phrase that Dr. C.J. Mertz, who was an ICA president years ago, said, they're in till they're out. They're in till they're out. So what usually happens with all of our new patients, I would say we get 90% acceptance of our care plans because I believe that they're in, right? And of course, there's always going to be people that don't want your care, and don't ever get worried about that because that's just part of life. But understand that your over talking and overselling will push them out. So you got to find a fine line between explaining your love for chiropractic and pushing them out because you're overselling or over-sciencing them or over-dramatizing things, right? So you've got to find a fine line. And remember, people have a certain amount of attention. So your report of findings can't be a half hour. If you're doing a one-on-one, my report of findings is 7 to 10 minutes. Unless they ask a lot of questions. It's 7 to 10 minutes. And that's how long it takes me to go from this is what's going on to this is how much it's going to cost, and I'll be back in a few minutes once you fill out all the paperwork. Right? It's 7 to 10 minutes. So that's about the amount of time attention span you got of an adult. So make sure that you got to practice these things. Like I essentially say this. I came up with a script for myself, and I essentially say the same script over and over and over again because that's what they want to hear. And obviously I change it for their particular case, but it's essentially the same script over and over and over again. Let's see. Any general words of wisdom for those who want to associate right after they graduate? Yes, I already told you. Go where your heart sings. No one asked that one. When you see a child with developmental issues, what's your go-to framework assessment outside of print reflexes? Other neuro tools most used for development of care plan. So aside from print reflexes, we check their eyes, like we've talked about. We check their heart rate variability. We check their posture. We check their balance. We'll do a sit-up test or a pull-to-sit test, which is really important just to see how their core, is and stuff. And we put all that onto, like a report of findings package. So that's my framework. And I'm looking to get an EEG. That's going to be my next little tool to measure. I just haven't found one that's really kid-friendly just yet. That's it. All right. Thank you, guys. Congratulations for all of you. And remember, next week is in 2 o'clock CCE 108.
Thank you.
You're welcome.